Welcome to the Unblocked Creators Podcast. I'm your host, Jesse James Carver. Socrates said that the unexamined life is not worth living. I won't go that far, but I will say that the creative life is more worth living. And that's because without creativity, you don't have agency. You're like a leaf in the wind, going wherever outside forces push you, unable to make plans of your own, instead always a part of somebody else's plan. This podcast is about how to develop agency. It's about how to tap into your creative power, to live with purpose and meaning, to live a fulfilling, worthwhile life. Today's episode is a bit unusual, and it's actually only on YouTube. There is no Spotify or audio-only platform version of this episode because it's a very visual experience. So if you're listening on Spotify, you may notice this episode is already about to end. Go click the link in the description for the full episode that you can actually watch and see some really cool things, like a knife being forged in a MacGyver-style forge in the desert. This episode is with my friend Aaron Tharp, who I met on my adventure down in the Mojave Desert over a year ago, and I got to spend some time with him again just a few weeks back when we recorded this, and it was exciting to learn a little bit more about his rather unconventional life. You see, Aaron tends to not spend over $1,000 in a year because he makes a lot of what he needs, and he does work trade and lives in interesting circumstances where his needs are met without the need for money. If that intrigues you, I really think you'll enjoy this one. So let's jump on in. Here's Aaron Tharp.
Have a look at that. That's molten brass.
Okay.
Or bronze.
Whoa.
That I found at the bottom.
Oh.
Sometimes they use like a bronze or brass sort of bearings inside these guys. And so when you're opening them up, they kind of fall out.
Okay.
And yeah, it got hot enough that we actually melted the brass and liquefied some of the clay as well. It's crazy how hot this thing can get.
Yeah.
I can find a quick. Here we go. There's a couple pieces of liquefied clay that recools. They turn into glass, basically.
That's pretty cool.
And
Wow.
yeah, it gets hot in there.
Yeah.
But anyway, are you filming at the moment?
I am.
Okay. Well, what we're doing today then is we're taking these knives, which I've already made. They're old spring leaf springs. And so you not melt them down, but you soften them in the forge, hammer them out flat, and then from there I cut these with an angle grinder and with the grinding wheel and just the sanding belts. This was not hand forged like that. I cheated and used all the shop tools.
Yeah.
But after that, I've got these guys. They're Kephart style knives. It's just a variety of bushcraft knife. And I'm going to quench them today, which involves heating them up to like 1600 degrees and then quenching them in oil. So we got a bucket of used motor oil, and if you go online, everybody says, don't use motor oil, it's yada yada yada. I've been using it for years now. It's, for the most part, it's fine. Main thing is that it's free.
Yeah.
Parks whatnot, to do the official way. And that stuff expensive, and we've got tractors here, we got cars, so we just use that, and yeah, it's about 90% effective. So yeah, there's a big bucket of oil. We will light this thing up. It'll take a few minutes to actually preheat, but this is just basically an enclosed area with a metal tube running to it with a bunch of slits, and then that tube goes over to the shop vac. And the shop vac is on reverse, obviously, so we're blowing air instead of sucking it, and that is our bellows. And we get to operate a forge out here pretty much entirely for free. We don't have to buy coal, we don't have to buy quenching oil. We've got the used shop vac, I make a lot of my own tools, so I don't have to buy grips and whatnot, tongs. You just make these guys here, old used hammers and whatnot. So I've got a relatively full functioning forge. I spent pretty much zero money on scraps here and there.
Yeah.
And it's not a professional forge, but it works well enough. And yeah.
Pretty incredible.
Thank you. It's
Pretty
mostly
incredible.
just a hobby.
Well, the fact that you can just find a spot in the desert and find what you need is pretty cool.
Well, thank you. All right, well, let's get this thing going. It'll take a minute or so to actually heat up.
Okay. Yeah, it always interests me to know how different types of creative people find their way and learn their crafts. And also just a lot of people face a lot of psychological blocks in creative work, and so kind of fun. I can talk to people about what unblocks them, or if they're blocked, I can maybe see if I can dig into that with them.
I may have a few stories for you.
Okay. Well, if you want to be a guest on my podcast, it would be pretty neat.
Sure, why not?
Cool.
We will
We'll
probably
do
have
it.
to do
We'll
that
do it.
here because I don't have a lot of tech to actually do that back and forth.
Sure.
But yeah, I wouldn't mind while you're here.
Yeah.
Just
Well, I didn't bring the best mics, but it's so quiet that you don't even need the best mics out here.
all right, here goes.
Oh yeah.
So let it heat up for a few minutes. You get a whole bunch of blacksmiths saying, that's not how to do it. You'll open a whole can of worms with people that say they have their own way.
Right.
And the truth is, they're all right. And they're all wrong at the same time.
Okay. That's a good disclaimer to just avoid the argument.
So you know what? I'll let you do the comments and I'll be here
There you
minding my
go.
own business.
I won't be arguing with the comment section either. Wow, look at the thick smoke in there.
Yeah, and then that all burns off before it ever gets out. And I'm just going to do one of these at a time. Anyway, we'll stick that guy in.
So you want to kind of pace the process.
Yes, if you heat it up too quickly, especially in a forge like this, you're going to have hot spots and cold spots, and it's going to want to warp when you cool it, and some places will be hard and some places will be soft. So I'm just going to stick it in for a little bit, get it up to where it's kind of like a powdery, kind of, just turns powdery looking.
Okay.
And then I'm going to back off on the heat a little bit, throw some more stuff in there, and from that powdery color, then I'll ease it on up to a higher temperature.
Okay.
I don't know if you can already see, that's starting to turn powdery,
Yeah.
but nothing else is. So that would have been a hot spot if I'd left that in there.
All right.
So I'm going to set it off to the side. I'm going to grab some more stuff. This is just old wood shavings and whatnot, but it'll starting to bend, so I'm going to have to bend that back.
Okay.
I wasn't paying attention. And roughly that direction right there is north, so I'll quench it that way, with the
Okay.
point facing that way. It may or may not be an old, forger's magic or who knows what, but basically the idea is that magnetic north, sort of as it's cooling, it hopefully that, the magnetism doesn't bend it out of the way. If you're facing west, it might
Wow.
want to bend it. I don't know how true that is, but that's north and that's a convenient direction, so I do
Interesting.
it that way.
All right.
Yep, it's ready.
Wow.
The question is, did it come out straight? And did it crack? As soon as that stopped dripping, came out straight.
Nice.
Finish it in the water. Well, I guess the third thing is, did it come out hard enough? Take all that scale off real quick. I don't see any cracks on the surface. So we got our file, we're gonna run it across. And it's skating right across. So you hear that? It's kind of So this is a finished, completed quench. And I'll stick that into the oven a little bit later today. But this one came out perfect.
Wonderful.
That one's, yeah,
Nice.
came out a perfect one. So we're going to try the other one.
All right.
And hopefully that one comes out the same. So I'm pretty much just shaping the knife now. It's been tempered, so it's hardened, but I still need to do a little bit more shaping. When this guy was tempering, it had a slight bend to it. I don't know if you can see that there, but it kind of does a little bit of a bend that way. So I'm trying to take care of that and flatten it on out. I've got enough meat in the spine itself that I can just kind of shave off a little bit on either end, and that will more or less even it out. It's not going to be a perfectly straight knife, but it'll be close enough. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm just doing the final shaping of the knife, and then I'll put the handle on it. It'll be done. So that's what we got.
All right. So you just put some brass pins through those holes.
Yep. And basically roughly shaped it before I put it on, cut the brass pins and drilled the holes, and just took a hammer and flared the ends of the brass out so that it was like a nail head from both sides, and that holds the handle on. And there's just a thin sheet of wood glue all on the inside that kind of fills in any cracks. And yeah, so that's the basics of the handle right there. Just needs to get sanded out and made comfortable to my hand, but there you have it.
An almost finished knife.
It's got a couple hours left.
All right. Amazing.
Thank you.
Welcome to the Unblocked Creators. I'm here with my friend Aaron.
Oh, don't forget your friend's name.
Well, the thing is, I didn't know your surname for the longest of time, and so Aaron Tharp.
Mm-hmm.
I emailed you a few months ago to see if you were in the same area that we first met about a year ago, and your email I won't say now, but
you can't have that.
it didn't refer to your actual name, so didn't know until recently. But I was glad to hear you were here again, for me to run into you again on my travels.
Welcome back from Canada.
Thank you. So I'm in the Mojave Desert, south of Death Valley, and Aaron is someone who has lived a life very different than anyone else I know. And so I wanted to find out a little more about it and share with you guys some of his mentality and some stories, and find out more for myself about his background. So Aaron, maybe I'll start with, do you have any, let's say, philosophy of life that you would be able to summarize?
Of course, I've got all kinds of ideas.
Could you put like a primary philosophy of life that you live by in as short as a sentence?
To boil it all down, there are so many ways that it could go. But probably I would say the things that you do and the things that you think and the ways that you live create a universe where those actions or ideas are a little bit more commonplace. So if you make this or that, you create a universe in which that item is a little bit more common. You create a universe in which people make things a little bit more. Yeah, basically, we are in part the creators of the world that we live in. Not entirely, by no means entirely the creators of everything that we live in, but we're like co-creators.
Yeah.
Which means we need to be a little bit more careful about the things that we're creating, I think.
I think that's fair to say. We've become very powerful creative beings, and we're a strange species in that way. And some of the B-roll footage of this episode, and probably towards the end, there will be a little more footage of Aaron producing a knife, for example, in a way that generally people aren't doing. You know, people would maybe find metal to forge and sharpen and make a knife, but it's pretty unique to build a forge in the desert and to, you know, find sort of sources of metal and shape it and forge it and find pieces of mesquite wood to make a handle. So we'll go more into that process later and show a little bit of it, show the finished product. But also, for some context for listeners, you don't have a cell phone.
No, I know, that's radical for most people these days. No, I don't have a phone.
You are connected. You have a device to get online when you need to.
Yeah,
but
I've got a little tablet, but it doesn't have a phone number attached to it. I just use it as basically my personal computer.
So that it makes navigating society very different these days.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't mind hearing, because you've spent the last 20 years traveling to different parts of the world, living a very different lifestyle than myself. That lifestyle, it must have been affected a fair bit by the advancement of technology.
Yes. I mean, it hasn't really affected my way of travel because I didn't advance with the technology. I guess the world with... I'm not quite sure what the question is.
Maybe it's that we need to give more context, but maybe it's that it's become more mentally challenging, at least, to imagine how you would begin to live a lifestyle like yours, coming from a life of having adopted these technologies in ways of engaging.
I'm old enough to have grown up before everybody was carrying around a cell phone.
Yes.
So for me, it was just natural not to.
You didn't leave it behind.
No, I didn't leave behind. I never had it. I'm 38 now, so do the math. This is 2020, first day of 2026.
Yes. Happy New Year.
Yeah, I grew up at a time when cell phones pretty much were not a thing. Yes, they existed, but nobody had them, or if you did have one, you were the cool kid. And it just, I never really had one, never really wanted one. For about a year, I had a flip phone. When I first started traveling, when I went to Arizona, and also when I was in Indiana. Mom really wanted me to have a phone so that, you know, moms can do what moms do.
Yes.
Because they're great at doing what moms do.
Indeed.
And it was probably good that I had that phone at that time. But yeah.
So you said back when you first started traveling, so let's go there. What was your very first memorable travel experience?
There's a whole bunch of smaller travels. My first big travel would be when I was 12 and then again 13. I was going to church at that time. I was a Christian. And we went down to Guatemala for about 10 days at a time. And we were just working at this orphanage. And so, yeah, little 12 and 13-year-old me going down to a third world country and seeing real life, basically, outside of all of the privileges of the United States, was very eye-opening. You know, I stepped off the plane, and one of the first things I saw was a child about my age with no legs rolling himself down a street on a skateboard, just like sitting and just like begging for stuff.
Yeah. I had the exact same experience in Thailand.
Really?
A
Okay.
person on a skateboard pulling himself, I think he had one arm and a cup to push and then pull himself along and push Yeah. Hard to imagine.
It awakens you, especially when you're a little child, and it's like, whoa, what did I just see? Because you don't see that here.
No.
So that would be my first real experience traveling. I mean, we did little bits of other stuff around the States, a little road trip here and there, but that was the first bigger travel.
So you couldn't return to your previous world after that with the same view of the world, right?
That's really hard to say. I mean, because I was also 12 years old, so I'm still every week is a new worldview almost.
Right. Good point.
So that just got incorporated into the greater worldview of a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
But it certainly was formative. It was absolutely formative.
Mm-hmm. And it was only a few years later you kind of became a fairly dedicated world traveler in some ways.
Yeah, I left when I was 18, and I originally was planning to go to a missionary school on the Hopi Reservation, but I wasn't quite old enough to do it when I was 18, so I had to wait till when I was almost 19, when was then the next school was going to start, so I spent that most of a year in Indiana, working in construction, and then I was working at a pizza place for a while. That was 2005, so that was when Hurricane Katrina hit, and about a month after that hit, I went down to Bayou La Battery, Georgia, Alabama, wherever Bayou La Battery is. I remember the name.
Yeah.
It was from Forrest Gump.
Okay.
But we went down there and we were helping out with all the cleanup and distributing water and food.
Mm-hmm.
We were down there for at least a week.
Wow.
So that was, sort of a secondary travel on my other travels.
Mm-hmm.
My employer was willing to give me about a week off to help with all of that. But yeah, and then when I was closing in on 19, I ended up going to the Hopi Res, just outside of Flagstaff, and doing a 5-month school out there. Basically learning how to go into another culture and not overrun them with your own culture. Which was also it was a missionary school, and it was also where I first started questioning what I thought I knew about my own religion.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it was.
And it changed over time.
It did. It was, again, a very eye-opening experience, and caused a lot of introspection. Had to ask myself a lot of very difficult questions, and ended up shattering a lot of worldviews that I held that I thought were absolutely concrete. And it turns out I was wrong. I did not know everything.
Travel seems to be one of the big ways that happens for people.
Yep.
And you've encountered a lot of different worldviews and cultures and people since then. So let's not jump too far ahead too fast, but you became a traveler, and so what was your early methods, your early experiences? How did you go about exploring the world?
Any way that I could. I never really had a lot of money. It was sort of one of those things where I could either try to become independently wealthy so that I could go travel, or I could just travel the way I was, and do it kind of the homeless way. And so that just seemed like a lot faster route to get to what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And so I ended up doing lots of bicycling and hitchhiking, and bus was the main ways that I traveled. Little bits of other stuff here and there, but yeah, mostly that. Just traveling around as cheaply as I could.
Yeah.
Spent nights under a bridge, spent plenty of nights homeless, had to do a bit of dumpster diving here or there. And that's just how life was when, you're on the road and you don't necessarily have money for hotels every night.
Yeah.
And you don't want to get into the homeless shelter system, I made it a point for myself, not because I necessarily have anything against charity, but I wanted to, as much as possible, do it on my own. And so I, chose not to stay in shelters. I chose not to do food banks. I've worked at those places before, not really worked, but volunteered at those places before, but I did not want to use those for myself. I wanted to find ways of living without being a burden onto other people and other systems.
I could imagine that could be partly about the feeling of dignity, but also partly maybe just the good feeling that comes from having developing the ability to do so, right?
Yes. You might not, how do I say it? There is a certain amount of freedom and self-respect that comes from knowing that you don't require all these extra systems. That, if you don't get a paycheck, you will be okay. You can find a way. There's just a certain, freedom in that. Peace of mind, I guess.
Well, people generally don't have that because they get very quickly locked into whether it's paying rent or paying a mortgage, and then potentially getting set up to get married early in life, potentially have kids early in life. And generally just have all these responsibilities to society, to people, to themselves, to their money lenders, that mean they can't go without a paycheck for very long at all. So that's, people might see that as freeing on the one hand, or kind of romanticize the idea of it, but it has its costs as well. Like you can't just suddenly. You've become, I guess, fairly committed to that lifestyle for the time being, anyways.
For the time being, yeah. It could change at any time. So far, it hasn't. But yeah, it certainly could change. But I would say that for the people that are not living this life, which is most of your audience, I appreciate you guys. I would not be able to do the things that I do if it were not for everybody else just being, living just their normal lives. So yeah, it is not a thing of where, my life is so much better, this or that. We all need each other.
This social fabric gives us all a lot more opportunity and possibility. Yeah, I've never been kind of so far estranged from a paycheck or a meal that I've dumpster dived for food. I've done it for wood. I've found some good quality hardwoods outside a furniture shop, but it makes you resourceful, right? To know that there's always a way. So that's encouraging. And you have had jobs, but also we were talking earlier about the term hobo and how, people have different connotations or stereotypes of that, but there's actually a lot of people in history who have decided to be what they would call a hobo. What do you think that term really means? What does it mean to you?
Just a traveler, I guess. I don't know that I put a whole lot of emphasis onto the name itself. It's a descriptive word that I would use for my general lifestyle. Somebody that travels around, gets odd jobs here and there, doesn't have a permanent home. Kind of a gypsy lifestyle, but not really. Because gypsy is more of like a bloodline. But sort of when somebody uses the word gypsy or hobo, sometimes we use it interchangeably. Just that general lifestyle.
So what are the main ways you've found to live without a permanent home and to kind of always have somewhere to go, somewhere to be, and somewhere to do the things you would like to do?
These days, with the internet, it's become a whole lot easier. With websites like Woofing and Workaway, it makes it very easy for people who don't have a lot of money to go out and travel, because if you make these connections and you've got a place to stay, you've got food, as long as you're willing to put in the hours to work.
Mm-hmm.
And that was not always a thing. I started traveling well before that ever existed. But yeah, it's become fairly easy now with all of those new websites and technologies.
Yep.
I used to travel around and not necessarily have an idea of where I was going, or maybe I'd heard about someplace somewhere and I just kind of show up, or I'd send them an email a month in advance and say, "Hi, I'm Aaron. Can I come check out your commune? Can I come, stay with you guys for a while?" And some people say yes, some people say no.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a very cowboy for a little while. I appreciate the spontaneity of the old ways, but I also appreciate more of the certainty of the newer ways as well. It's a nice balance.
Yeah, well, people often think it's kind of a young person's game to live with that amount of uncertainty. It's like young people are more maybe inclined to see it as less risky.
Young people tend to be more foolish.
Yeah. Well, you must have had some interesting situations.
Oh yes.
At times.
Oh yes.
So do any come to mind in terms of what two kind of main ones come to mind that I'm curious about? Okay. One, you must have had times where you're essentially stranded somewhere without a place to be. Mm-hmm. You mentioned being under a bridge, or so I'd like to hear about times when you got somewhere, or you were, you ended up somewhere and thought, oh boy, what do I do now? And maybe didn't have much money or any at all.
I can't say that I've had a time where I was intending on heading somewhere specific that I didn't already have a place to land. I have done quite a bit of traveling where from A to B, I had no idea where I was going to stay. Mm-hmm. I can't think of any time right now where I was planning on going somewhere, arrived there, and it turned out I couldn't stay. So I guess I'll tell you the stories about going from A to B.
Yeah.
My first long-distance bicycle trip was from just north of Cincinnati up to Chicago. I was planning on going to a commune up there. And so I sent them an email a month or two before saying, hey, can I come visit? And they were like, sure, come on over. And so I packed up my bicycle. I was on a mountain bike, so it was slow, and I packed way too heavy. I think I put about 4 days of bicycling in, and then also got a couple of hitchhikes where I'd stop at like a gas station to fill up for water, and somebody's like, man, where are you going, sort of thing. I'm heading on up to Chicago. Well, I'm heading to Indiana. You want to toss your bicycle? Or I'm heading to Indianapolis. You want to toss your bicycle in the back?
Yeah.
Sure, why not? But I think I was on the road for about 4 days, maybe camped for 4 nights or something like that. And so that was one of the times where I spent a night under a bridge and another night, just camping at some random field.
Mm-hmm. Generally, did you have things like a tent or a sleeping bag?
No, I didn't have... I think I had a blanket with me and a jacket. I don't think I had a sleeping bag. That was 18 years ago? I don't really remember what I packed. I remember it was too heavy. That's about all I remember.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I've been there, packing a bit too much without a certain... route to my destination.
I guess the bottom line of that is you keep on going and eventually you get so tired that you don't care where you stay, so you stay there.
Yeah. If you need to sleep, you'll sleep. Yeah.
And you just try to find somewhere out of the way that you don't get seen until the next morning, and then you keep on going until you get to where you're going.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been asked on my little bike packing adventures, just short-term things, but, a couple nights where I don't know where I'm sleeping and wake up to packing up my stuff and someone walking their dog. Did you sleep here?
Yeah.
No. No, I just, sure did.
Just taking a nap.
Yeah.
Got tired on my bike, and so I thought I'd pull over for a minute.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't bugging anybody, off in a bike trail somewhere, so.
Normally people are more curious, at least in the past so far, what I've noticed is that people are more curious than furious or frustrated. They're like, oh, okay, well, okay.
Yeah. I mean,
bye, good luck.
What are they going to do, right? It's, you're probably moving on anyways. So what about dangerous encounters, or do you feel like you've ever been like in serious close calls?
For the most part, no. There have been the occasional times here, like inner city stuff, where something will happen where somebody, ends up trying to take your stuff or whatever. But as a general rule, people don't tend to like confrontations, and if you see them doing something, they'll be like, oh, I was just checking to see, everything's good here, and then they shuffle off real quick. After they were, looking at your stuff. As far as like violent encounters with humans, I've not really, no. I've chased a couple of people off that were clearly, trying to rob me, but nothing that was ever going to get seriously violent.
Okay. Yeah, in my own little travel adventures, I found people generally, that curiosity also makes people very hospitable, and oh, can I just use your garden hose to get some water? Oh, sure. And suddenly some old lady who's gardening is curious about...
Do you need some lemonade too?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, people, a lot of people like to be helpful. So it's not that there aren't people out there who are less trustworthy than others, but that's kind of an encouraging thing. And there's certain places where I've hitchhiked, like a small Canadian island, where it's like part of the culture.
Hitchhiking, yeah, that's what you do.
Yeah, you pick people up, and if they're hitchhiking, and if you're stranded, you hitchhike, and it's no big deal. But it's a very high trust culture on a little island, in some little islands. So
it doesn't work so well in other places.
No, I wouldn't hitchhike just anywhere myself. So you're mostly someone who manages to live without much concern for making money. You've, I'm sure, done quite a variety of things to have cash come your way here and there, but you probably sometimes need to figure out how to fly somewhere, for example, right? Get a plane ticket. So would you say it's mostly the skills you've developed, like you're a craftsperson, you create stuff? Is it mostly that's gotten you what you need, or do you?
Not usually. I do occasionally get, actual paying job paychecks. And it's usually low-skill labor, like working at a pizza place, working at a gas station, you doing extra jobs, like I'll be working at a hostel or a farm or whatever, and you just make a small little paycheck. And when you're not buying lots of stuff and you don't have like recurring monthly bills of rent or insurance or gas or all of the subscription-based things where it's just monthly nickeling and diming you, the money goes a long ways. And so, I'll get a job, and that might float me for a couple of years before I have to go do something else. And then the craftsman stuff does help, do things every once in a while, like somebody will need a bench to be made, or, bookshelf, or this or that. And if you've got those extra skills, you can do it and make a, couple $100, whatnot, and that'll, I spend between $500 and $1,000 per year. So a couple $100 goes a long ways.
Well, when you lent me that $2 for a book at the thrift store, that's like a significant percentage of of your annual.
But I don't really use it that much. So on one hand, it was a lot, and on the other hand, it wasn't much at all.
Yeah.
So.
Well, people worry a lot about preparing for the future, especially retirement.
Yep.
So does that concern you? How do you think about long term?
I understand it as a thing that I will eventually have to deal with. In the meantime, I do my best to live healthy so that I don't have to rely on as much medicine and hospital bills and all that. Postpone that as long as possible. I am fairly confident that by the time I am old enough to start looking at quote-unquote retirement, probably this country may not exist. And, that goes into theory as opposed to fact. And we may very well pick ourselves back up and not collapse in the next, decade or two. But right now I'm focusing more on gaining skills, whether it be people skills or learning how to just take care of my body, developing friendships and social networks, and approaching it that way. For the most of the entirety of human history, we have not had this thing called retirement. That's a very new invention. It used to be where you got old and your village would take care of you. So part of what I'm doing is just crafting, social networks so that one day I can be the elder of this or that group, and
be valued for what you can continue doing.
Yes. Which may very well be a long shot, far shot. I don't know how well it'll work. But right now, Social Security is a gamble. So, it's...
a lot of retirement plans are
really a gamble at the moment.
Yeah. I feel like it's probably in the last decade or two, it's become a sort of trend for people to say health is wealth. Partly because health has been so undermined by modern day life that we're now having to even realize that. But it's interesting to me to consider how a person defines wealth. Okay. Because on the one hand, you brought up maintaining your well-being, maintaining your health to delay the need for, certain kinds of bills. You also talked about developing skills. And so that's where people think job security is the thing that's going to protect them. And yet, especially now, as AI is threatening to take over more and more specialized jobs, if you're overly specialized in a lot of areas, your job's going to be gone.
Yep.
So skill development and acquisition as a form of security and taking care of your health as a form of wealth both come up. How else would you define, is wealth something that means much to you? I mean, if we take away the money-based definition.
For me, wealth is a sort of a direct correlation to, am I fulfilled as a person in my life? Am I, personally feel happy? Are the people around me, content and happy? Am I pleased with the way I have lived so far? Did I have to betray myself in order to get here? I guess bringing the money situation back into the conversation a little bit, I view money as a means to an end rather than an end in and of itself. Money is something, it's a form of power that I use to get the things that I need. And at some point, you just don't need any more things. You have enough food to keep you alive. You have enough warmth to keep you alive, or enough coolness to keep you alive. You've got a roof over your head. You've got the ability to get from A to B, and at some point, it just becomes excess. And I see a lot of people thinking that more money will set them free, but it tends to just dig people deeper holes. And sort of make those anchors deeper and deeper into whatever it is that they're making money at. And there's not necessarily anything wrong with that. It is a way of survival. But I don't think that most people find fulfillment in the quest after money. Because there is no end to that quest. There's most people don't have the ability to understand when enough is enough. I've got enough money, I'm okay now.
Yeah, I feel like because so many people are living technically with not enough, I mean, in some sense, they're always very close to having not enough if they don't make more.
Yep.
So before, forgetting about millionaires, if we're just talking about most people who are paying their bills, they think well, it's not really that they think. I feel like it's a survival-based sensation. I need more money.
Yeah.
So then if they became a millionaire, maybe more and more still feels more secure. But I also think a lot of people who build a lot of financial wealth could have investigated more deeply. They might have investigated more deeply what they value, such that once they kind of hit a certain threshold, it's more about how the money flows as a unit of power to achieve those ends, rather than it being its own end. But paying your bills to keep your house heated versus collecting wood and burning it kind of puts you out of touch with the actual value, right? So we're in this weird sort of fragmented economy where I don't have to be deeply connected to the things that my survival needs, which is intrinsically valuable. And then even things like entertainment and nutrition, nutrition is a need, but, certain luxuries that kind of are extra. We've lost, a lot of us have lost touch with our ability to entertain ourselves or to connect with people in our direct vicinity in a way that's entertaining, rather than going and having to scroll social media or, and I grew up with YouTube and a smartphone, so I get plenty of entertainment that way. But I also really value learning a little bit about how to grow food, and seeing someone like you who your time is very much oriented around creating things that are useful, or around, for like as just one of many examples, okay, we got to make sure the firewood piles are stocked, and it's nice to stay warm. There's electric heaters around, but it's nice to stay warm next to the fire. It has certain benefits. So it's a tricky thing, like I'm in a lifestyle and sort of on a trajectory of a lifestyle that involves financial goals. And I'd like to own some property one day, and it's probably going to demand some money. But I really want to stay in touch with my deeper values, and we could have a whole discussion about the values of our species at this point, and like there's sort of a meta crisis that has been discussed, where there's like several different crises that humanity faces, and environmental change being one, ecological disruption, and food chains, mental health, and among others.
It's daunting.
It is daunting. So where am I going with that?
I have no idea. There are many different paths.
Well, yeah, a question I wanted to ask, and you might not have much to say on it, but if you were to somehow encounter, in this hypothetical, $1 million that just appeared in your possession,
okay,
what would you do with that?
I'd look around to see if there was a camera first.
Yeah, good.
Gotcha.
Good, yeah. Yeah. Check the currency.
Are they all real?
Yeah.
Check to see if there's a tracking device in one of them. Yeah, somebody waiting for a drug drop off. I need to not be here right now. But barring all that, somebody said, "Here, Aaron, here's yours. $1 million. It's yours." Signed and notified.
Yep.
I can't manage to spend the money that I have right now, and I've got like $3,000 or $4,000. I would say certainly my parents need to finish paying off their house. They bought a house in Colorado, and they bought it when times are good, and times are not as good now as they were, and so they're struggling with that. So I would pay off the house so they could stay where they're at.
I love how that stumps you in a way. Like,
I don't have anything that
you could buy a Bugatti.
I don't have anything that I'd probably end up getting my passport again, maybe.
Oh yeah.
I'll let that lapse because I wasn't using it. That's only a couple
so maybe
$100.
Storing some of it away, helping your parents out.
Yeah. As far as what would I buy right now, I can't think of anything at all that I couldn't already get if I just went out and got it.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. Well, you make a lot of things that if you need,
Yeah.
you can make.
I don't need to buy them. I can make them.
So with the abundance of materials available to a resourceful person, I've heard you talk about making beverages like beer and wine, also kombucha you made.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen you making knives. I've seen other tools that you've made. Oh, there we go.
Yeah,
ceramics,
coffee cup.
collecting
Right
clay.
Uh-huh.
So you went and scavenged or, foraged or however you'd say it for that clay.
Mm-hmm. It was about a quarter mile up the road there.
And you made a pottery wheel,
Mm-hmm.
a foot-powered pottery wheel at that time. And then you also made a kiln.
Mm-hmm. No, I did not make the kiln. Somebody else made the kiln.
Okay.
I made the forge and a couple of other things, but another guy named Andrew, he made the kiln. But it's still functioning. So
yeah, a self-made, or a, how would you put it? Yeah, a desert material scavenged kiln, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see. You've made quite a few tools. There's the knife you have on your hip right now. There'll be some footage of you in the creation process. But
Yeah.
let's show it off a little bit.
Go for it.
Thank you. So you saw that metal being forged in some clips, and toward the end, I think, is when we'll give more detail. But mesquite trees grow all around here. I don't know if they're native to here.
I think so.
And nice hard wood, some brass pins. Pretty useful tool. And a leather sheath that you made and put it on your hip. So that's just something that most people would think, oh, that would be fun if I had the free time, as like a fun hobby thing to do. But for you, it's like, well, I actually want the knife, right? It'll be useful, and you enjoy aspects of the process.
Mm-hmm.
How the hell did you learn how to make knives?
I grew up wanting to do blacksmithing. It's sort of always been a fascination for me, but I never got really a chance to do it. Until later in life, I started hanging around with a lot of pagans, and for some reason, blacksmithing and pagans just kind of go together.
Interesting.
I don't know why, but it's a thing. And so I got to hang out with a lot of blacksmiths and, learn little bits here and there. But where it really took off for me must have been back in 2021 or 2. I was coming out here to the Mojave, to a couple of valleys over, and Greyhound misplaced my bag.
Oh.
And so all I had was the clothes that I had on me and a little bedroll, and then my wallet and a tablet. And I had to make do with that in the middle of the desert in the winter.
Wow.
And so I ended up building a forge out there to make, some stuff, a knife, and just kind of self-taught from there. A lot of things. YouTube is great for that. YouTube is a wonderful, wonderful tool.
It's like the Library of Alexandria if you know how to use it. Yeah.
You can learn just about anything, especially the older skills.
Mm-hmm.
I would recommend that anybody if you're able to do one-on-one with somebody, that's better. But if you're wanting to do a skill, if you want to learn a skill and you don't have anybody to teach you, just go on YouTube and you'll find thousands of hours of education.
Mm-hmm.
And every opinion under the sun, you won't know where to turn because there will be so many different opinions about what to do. But at least you'll have a general direction.
Yeah. Yeah, this is something that interests me. The education system, in many ways, the public education system has made a population of people who are useful workers.
Yeah.
And we're trained to pass tests, memorize enough to pass a test, and do what we're told and follow orders. And there was a little bit of creative agency sort of instilled in me in school, but largely it was probably the early homeschooling years that gave me a different attitude, so that when I ended up in shop class and ended up in whatever class, even English class, I would bend the rules in a way And often I found teachers who actually encouraged that because they saw it.
The spark of creativity.
Yeah.
Fan that flame.
Yeah, exactly. They appreciated it. And I was an appreciative student when I had a teacher who paid attention and allowed some of that. So I feel kind of lucky. But now, okay, like most of the classes you could take at Stanford are on the internet. It's kind of all there for free if someone has the agency to pursue a self-education.
Yep.
So it's this weird point in history where we could become way more independent than ever from institutions and social conditioning. So my hope is that more and more people find the means, I guess the inner means, to do that and self-educate in the ways that empower them creatively. And what do you think? What do you think are the things, like the inner attitudes, that stop people who want to live a more creative life, or a life with more, let's say, flexibility from social standards, or what are the things that people would need to become more aware of or let go of?
Probably let go of your television time.
Yeah.
Let go of your scrolling for however long you do.
Yeah.
That for most people will open up an hour or two every day that you could, then dedicate to something.
Yep.
I would say work on your addictions, whatever it is. If you're a smoker, you're spending an awful lot of money every week, on your habit. If you're an alcoholic, you're spending an awful lot every week on your habit. Whatever it is, if you are on some sort of med that you're on but don't necessarily need to be. Some people do legitimately need those meds, but there are a lot of people that take stuff just because it's easier, or it's basically easier to pop a pill than it is to do the internal work.
Yeah.
And again, this is not at all medical advice.
No, that's fine.
Not medical advice at all. But just saying that there's a lot of excess and a lot of addictions out there, and if you were wanting to become more independent and more creative, working on those addictions is a good place to start.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think they really go hand in hand. So for me, I really struggled with depression in my teenage years, and I was offered serotonin reuptake inhibitors. And I was skeptical. I consider myself lucky to have been skeptical. And again, not that they can't serve their purpose for people in a positive way. But I thought they were too quick to prescribe this to me. And there's got to be more systematic issues causing this. And so, I explored a lot when it comes to nutrition, and I've always kind of struggled to maintain, but I don't eat a lot of processed stuff. And there's probably a few things that helped me get out of depression.
Getting some sunshine.
Yes, as a Canadian, escaping for some of the winter has helped. Getting more physical exercise is huge. Getting off the screen more of the time is big. And expression, I think. I think creative expression itself is part of what digs you out of that. So it kind of goes hand in hand. It's getting free of the things you use to numb yourself. Frees up time, money, energy. And the time, energy that can go into creative pursuits allows that creative pursuit to also do the opposite of numbing you.
Combat whatever it was that you were addicted.
Right. Yeah. Uproot the problem that you're numbing. So I like that answer. I think that a lot of people know that we're, as a society, we're struggling with addiction. And the phones are a huge part of that. So...
And addiction comes in many forms. It's not just pills and cigarette and alcohol. It can be, it can be your phone. It can be literally anything. It can be food. It can be your job. You could be addicted to anything.
Yeah. Video games.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we've covered some cool stuff. What else do I want to know about? Well, what about, I mean, you're a person who's read some interesting books, you've explored ideas, you're familiar with different religious thinking, and you grew up with Christianity, and have there been any specific, I don't want to be too broad with the question, let's start with literature. Are there particular books that you encountered that really impacted your life?
There's been numerous books. I would say that probably anyone that's read like the Ishmael series kind of comes away with a little bit different perspective about life. There is a book called Grimm, which is kind of interesting. I forget the name of the author. I can get it for you. I'll see it in the comments, I'm sure. Yep. There is a book called Shantaram by Gregory David Roberts, who was at one time Australia's most wanted, that escaped prison and went to India and did all this sort of stuff and created a semi-fiction, semi-real story book exploring a whole bunch of different topics that you just don't encounter in the Western world. Very, very well written, very eye-opening book. There's any number of other books, a whole bunch of them. But that's a good place to start right there.
That sounds fascinating. Yeah, Ishmael, we talked a little bit about. A couple of people listening, actually, who I know will probably listen to this, have read it, so we'll have some good conversations. Yeah, what about encounters with different cultures and different worldviews and attitudes? On the one hand, you've encountered cultures that probably have very different values than anything you grew up with. I wonder about how it has been inhabiting those different cultures, like being welcomed in and spending time with them, and also what have you brought out of value for yourself? What's become integrated for you?
Well, different cultures have different values, so you pick up different things. I would say when I, again, went to Guatemala, 12 and 13, I didn't really pick up too much on the culture just because I was a 12, 13-year-old. Everything was new. My own hometown was new. So mostly it was just a broader eye-opening of there are issues in the world outside of my little Midwest town. The second culture that I encountered was when I went to missionary school on the Hopi Res, and encountering basically an occupied nation within the United States, and starting to learn how they felt about things, which was very different and from anything that I had ever experienced, and sort of put a new perspective on the American story. And there are winners and there are losers, and the losers still exist.
Yeah, the winners like to flaunt their
Sweep
trophies
things under the rugs.
Yeah.
And so definitely learned a lot of things from them. I spent about a year and a half in Africa, Eastern Africa, and learned a lot from the people over there. It's just a much slower lifestyle, very open, especially the farther out into the countryside you go, away from the cities. Cities are a different story, but out in the countryside, everybody is very welcoming, very caring. If you just walk into an American village, you're not going to find a whole host of households that are willing to house you and feed you just for showing up. Go over to Africa, pretty much every village we went to, we had people begging us to stay with them.
Wow.
So
that's amazing.
Yeah, it really is. It's incredible people over there.
Would you say that people living that slower lifestyle, did you see a lot of fulfillment and happy people?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. We like to romanticize the simpler lives, but the basic truth is that those simple lives are very harsh, very difficult. You'll have people that'll have to walk for miles a day to carry back their 5 gallons of water.
Yeah.
So to say that they're happy with that, probably not. To say that they are fulfilled, I would say that most of them probably have dreams of doing something else. But are they competent and are they strong? Absolutely. They're capable of dealing whatever life throws at them? Yep. If the world were to kind of end today, they would outlast us by a long shot. Because they've had to deal with the harshness of life, and for them it would just be another day, whereas we would be devastated. So
yeah, it's interesting. We've talked a little bit about how a culture like ours that's become so decadent or abundant in resources, it starts to cave in on itself in a way, because we didn't have to overcome the struggles to get to the point where food is abundant. We're sort of now, we just have to overcome the struggles to get to work on time, and the whole machine keeps running. But then, because we don't really value the production of food that much, because it's so abundant,
never been without,
we can also have, endless new plastic toys to purchase every day, and all this very unnecessary stuff that ends up making us kind of miserable. Unfulfilled, constantly wanting more. So I just wonder about that sometimes. Like, it makes sense that people romanticize and think, our ancient ancestors, or the Aboriginal, or the untouched tribes, they're so in touch with nature and how wonderful. But life is difficult.
It makes a great movie, I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly. No path is free of suffering and difficulty. So, but maybe recognizing that would allow more people to stop running so much from it, thinking that more of something is going to solve it. Sometimes it might be more so decreasing or removing things from your life.
It is not always true, but it's one of, I think it's the Buddhist sayings, that the cure for suffering is more suffering. And it's not always true, but there is some truth to that. Where you have a little bit of suffering, but if you go through a lot more hardships, suddenly that little bit of suffering just doesn't really seem like suffering anymore. I actually have to get up at 7 to go to work. It's a lot better than, wow, I just ran for my life last night because the rebels were overtaking the village.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know that's an extreme example, but it's still.
Yeah, I think there's other ways that brings to my mind, there's other ways that facing suffering stops us from creating more of it. Okay. So, like, if there's something going on inwardly, emotionally, that I don't want to face, I could... that's often at the root of addiction. So then I'm going to drink alcohol, or for me, like, it's cannabis, and I've struggled with chronic pain, physical pain, but also that can be, it can be a mind-body systematic sort of thing. So I know that if I'm more stressed out, if I'm dealing with more complicated inner frustration, my physical pain will get worse. And so often that means taking the time to find out, what's going on? And it's often like, I'd rather entertain myself. I'd rather be entertained than look at what's making me angry or what's making me whatever. But if I do spend time with that, whether it's grief or anger or whatever, it's probably going to be suffering. And then I'm probably going to come out on the other side of it less likely to create more suffering for myself. So, yeah, suffering is an interesting one. I've heard it said also that, having a goal, because people sort of know of the Buddha's noble truths that suffering, at the root of suffering is desire.
Mm-hmm.
And so then they think, well, if you have to let go of desire, and then you're free of suffering. But that itself, like wanting to be free of suffering, that's a desire.
Yep.
And so it's actually more like accepting some suffering. That
this is just the way it's going to be.
Yeah.
I don't like it, but I'll deal with it.
Yeah. Don't add the second arrow is the idea. Well, hey, man. It's been a fun chat. Yeah. I'm starting to get pretty sweaty next to this fire, so maybe we wrap up for now. But if I missed anything that people think I really should have asked, I might be able to send Aaron an email. So leave your comments, and we may or may not get more answers. But,
sure. All right. Hi, guys.
Thanks for spending this time with me, and I hope that people got something of interest for them out of it. I sure did.
Yeah, it was good to have this talk.
Thank you, man.
All right.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Unblocked Creators. Your support means the world to me, and if you can go ahead and click that thumbs up button, click subscribe, it really goes a long way in supporting the show and allowing me to continue doing this. If anything stood out to you as particularly interesting about this episode, please drop a comment down below. I'd love to hear from you. I hope you'll join me on the next episode. Until then, I'm Jesse James Carver. Goodbye for now.